in order to get that to play, you have to have your phone connected to the thing.
Hi everyone. Waiting for my mic's on.
The greatest killer.
Hello. Hi. So welcome everyone this week to Convos of Shan. And we are live in the Real Buzz Radio headquarters. And we are talking about co-parenting this week. So we are just gonna slowly start. I should be able to work it. Let me just see what's gonna happen anyway. Oh, that's good. Hey. Right.
That red and white one at the back there. Yeah, that one. That's actually really good.
Right. So we're improving on last week's improvements.
Have you pressed play?
No. Okay, hold on. If you're voice noting me, you need to send me a text, please, because one can't listen to a voice note right now. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Hi, everyone. Sound check. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear, please. Let me know if you can hear me. I've done something wrong this week already. No. Oh, it's me. Right, if someone can tell me whether you can sound check, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. And welcome to Convos of Shan. Look, we've got Brandon and all these things. Hey! So welcome everybody. Please share the live, and we are live also on realbuzzradio.com. So please share the live, please, guys, and welcome to the show of this week, Wednesday. Each and every Wednesday, we are going to be live in the radio, and we are going to hit it off. Right. So this week we are going to be talking about co-parenting. So it's going to be a bit of a wide topic, but we are going to bring it back in. So thank you very much to the sponsors. Real Buzz Radio headquarters is where you'll find me each and every Wednesday. I will be here live in the studio. Hi. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much to the sponsors, Jimmy Asher Foundation. Thank you very much for sponsoring us. We appreciate it. Does great work with the community. How did that work? Okay, there we go. And also, thank you very much for our new sponsors, which is the Flavor Stop. So you can find them doing their weekly meals every week. So they are our free sponsors, and thank you very much for having us. And we very much so appreciate our sponsors who do great work. So welcome to Convos with Shan. As we discussed last week, some of you may not have been here. Some quality is much better. Thank you, Nay. So some of you may not have been here, but welcome to the new 9. It will be via YouTube live stream, so you can see me. Hi, I can see you all too. And also as well on realbuzzradio.com. So that's where you can find me. I'll be here each and every week discussing different topics of different situations. We'll be getting into it. We will be discussing things. We will be having conversations, and it will be nice. So we're in a nice, calm, friendly environment. We're going to start talking about things that really it makes it a little bit uncomfortable. People may not want to talk about it, but we are bringing those conversations to the airwaves, okay, each and every week. So what to expect, guys? It's going to be real advice, always fresh, always transparent, and just keeping it real each and every week. Yeah. So this week we can have a few call-ins. So the contact number, I will put it up there. It's 07852 478 168. So we're expecting some call-ins and some interaction with you guys because we want to hear what you guys' experiences are in terms of co-parent, whether it was good, whether it was bad, and so forth. Right. So our new thing this week is we are going to have a motto every single week. And this week's motto, obviously tying into our subject, is the best security blanket a child can have is 2 parents that respect each other. Now, that motto is something that we need to try and implement as much as we possibly can in terms of parenting, in terms of what's going to work for our children, what we can do better, and how we can make improvements, right? So we want to try and keep that as fresh as possible as we can every single week. And as well, it's beneficial for our children, right? So that is the motto of the week. And for those of you that may have missed out, I may repeat it later on in the show. But in actual fact, I'm going to post it as well. So the motto of the week will be there if you want to go back to it or refresh yourself at any point, yeah? So the main topic of today's show is co-parenting, and what is co-parenting and what does that look like? We have many of broken families and etc., where co-parenting is where 2 parents is an enterprise undertaken by parents who work together to take on socializing, care, and upbringing of their children, for whom they share equal responsibility. The co-parent relationship differs from an intimate relationship between adults, and it takes focus solely on the children. Now, as we all know, we are all human beings, so sometimes our own emotions may override, should we say, sometimes our own emotions may override this, but this should be our main focus and our main goal when it comes to co-parenting. You should be able to put your own feelings aside and focus on the key thing here, which is the upbringing and the raising of the children. As a co-parent, you need to be able to communicate, in order to coordinate the child's life, making sure that the child can be able to flourish with both parents in a healthy environment, right? So I broke it down into a few steps, which I think may be beneficial, maybe, you know, useful, shall we say. It may be useful, it should be useful in terms of co-parenting, what helps and what doesn't. So we are going to try and get some experiences of things that didn't work, so we know what not to try as much as what to try, and talking from everyone's experiences of vast different things of how it works and what didn't work. Um, so my list consists of communication effectively. So effective communication, making sure that the communication is clear, making sure that it's, you know, precise and it's to the point. Yeah, trying not to get too emotionally tied up in one another when you are trying to communicate between the adults, and it should be solely about the child. I'm not sure about this one, how people feel about this one, but document everything. You know, that one was a bit of a not sure. I don't know, document everything. Maybe, I guess, for purposes of evidence, if it was necessary, that may be a good thing. Try not to overreact, and these things we will be going back over in depth. So when we go back into our subject, we can re-look at these into a little bit more depth. Try not to overreact, or try not to overreact. Keep a consistent schedule. Consistency is really important in terms of raising children, and in terms of, you know, as us as adults as well, we need to kind of know exactly what it is that we have to do, you know, being consistent and making sure that we're consistent in those plans so our children can see that we have a joint collective effort into being consistent with raising the children. Disagree in private. This is my big thing. Disagreeing in private, it shouldn't overrun to the children, you know, regardless of your emotions of how you feel, upset, sad, or angry. That should be between, you know, that should be between adults. It shouldn't be something that children have to witness or, you know, hear or see, to be honest. Prepare for a friendly exchange. So being friendly with an ex, I think you have to kind of put aside your differences to try and work, you know, for the goal, and that is kind of you know, critical. Share positives with their mum. So, you know, you need to share not just positives, but, you know, in terms of things are happening with positive and negatives. I would change that slightly, but you need to be sharing and transparent and open in terms of what is happening, and following your parenting plan. I don't know. I never had a parenting plan. So if someone does have a parenting plan, let me know, because that wasn't something that I had ever had or planned to have in terms of a parenting plan. I guess you just kind of try your best, and hopefully your best is good enough. But if there is a parenting plan, I think that's quite a constructive way of doing things. I heard about the 5Ps, 6Ps, yeah, poor preparation. We'll leave the rest out, but yeah. So yeah, maybe a parenting plan is probably a very good thing to have, but I've never experienced it personally. Use an online calendar. I guess maybe to make sure that the diaries match, that in terms of what you're doing, you want to make sure that you're on the correct path. And it says avoid being a Disneyland dad. So yeah, I'm not sure of a Disneyland dad what that means, but yeah, that is I guess that's maybe a parent that doesn't do much but does all the fun stuff, but not all the other stuff that needs to be done. So those are the key things in terms of co-parenting and what we can do and how we can make that better, and what we can do in order to prevent I guess, disharmony in raising a child, right? So that was my that's my tips, and well, it weren't mine, they were quotation rewritten by Shan. Yeah. So those were some of the tips that I took from various different sources, which I thought would be useful in terms of co-parenting. I had a conversation earlier on today, and it was like, you know, what if you can't co-parent? You know, what if the person that you have a child with is unable to co-parent. I guess that's a bit of a tricky situation in terms of trying to co-parent with somebody that is not you're not able to communicate with. And it can be quite distressing situation, not just I guess for the adults, but also for the children involved in that situation as well, because that can be sometimes what causes disharmony. So we see it in some children whereby they struggle emotionally, and and it's displayed through behavior, it's displayed through their schooling, it's displayed through the way that they communicate, in terms of you can see that the child is struggling because of the disagreements in terms of not having, or the disagreements that are constantly between parents. um I read a scenario, a situation. So the mother was, she's quite very hands-on. Hi Renee. Hi, I'm not sure who that is, but hi. So where the parent was a bit concerned about the co-parenting and what that looked like, and that the father wasn't sticking to an arranged schedule of which they had. She thought that that was detriment to the child, and that the child was struggling emotionally, and that the other parent wasn't able to see or understand her point of view of where she was coming from. And like I said about the effective communication, and also trying to disagree in private, it is very difficult when you have two balanced, two personalities trying to come together when you already, don't agree in terms of a relationship. But either way, you should be making sure that as much as you possibly can, you can try and communicate. If the communication is fully broken down, it's a bad situation. I always then feel, okay, if the communication is fully broken down, can you now step to the next point of call, which would be a grandparent, an uncle, another side of that family, so the child can still feel like they have a family member that is valued, that can still understand and have, some type of relationship. Um, so it's not completely broken down on terms of the other side of the family, regardless if that's female or male. You still want to make sure that that child is still able to have some kind of connection with their background, of where they're coming from, of their family, of their history. There are some situations where it may be a domestic violence situation where you just cannot continue with the partner, or the father or the mother. But it's trying to find another avenue. So you always try and think of another way around. So you may not be able to communicate directly, but can the grandma, or can the granddad, or can the auntie or the uncle? I find that sometimes we dismiss very harshly, should I say? Oh, what did Oh, what did I do? I don't know. What did I do? Huh? I can't hear myself. Okay, sorry. Oh, that frightened me. The life out of me. It's always kind of important for a child to still try and have some type of family connection. This is where we start to maybe slightly lose our identity, where the children don't know, I won't say don't know, but you're not understanding where you come from, where your family's from, what your family consists of. You are very much one-sided. So the scales clearly become unbalanced. You have a whole load of family on one side, but the other side is extremely slim, or near to nothing, basically. And that's something that kind of needs to be implemented. And I guess parents also have to try and take some type of responsibility in terms of making sure that when you are trying to successfully co-parent, what that looks like, how you're going to make those steps to get there. Okay, yes, we are not, a partnership anymore. We're not in a relationship with one another, but we still want to make sure that we can still provide the best possible outcome for our child. you see sometimes when marriages break down that unfortunately children are left in the middle. I would say, I wouldn't say out in the cold because that sounds a bit cliche, but you know, children are left in the middle trying to pick between parents, trying to figure out, hello, okay, hi Ash, you know, trying to figure out where the children are stuck in between the middle. So we need to make sure that we can find a healthy middle ground for both parents to work together to try and co-parent. So I'm going to get into some of the bullet points that I had. So I think I want to get into let me get into the one that I like the best, which is avoiding being a Disneyland dad. So I think that means in simple, you know, in terms of, you know, just being that fun parent, not taking on any of the harsher responsibilities of parenting. So, you know, as we said, it is very much so about equal scales. Yes, you know, sometimes the scales may not fully be equal because one child, you know, the child may live with one parent a lot more than the other. But in terms of responsibility, in terms of being aware, in terms of making choices, in terms of, you know, having that whole holistic responsibility for the child, you want to make sure that you're trying to not just be there for the fun parts, but, you know, the bad parts as well. And I guess that makes it a lot more, I wouldn't say fair, but it allows the communication to flow easier, especially when you can make decisions and make decisions together in terms of what needs to be done for your child. Now, if you are one of those, you know, parents that, I only want to do the fun stuff, you know, if it's going on holiday, taking you on holiday, that's fine. I'll be that. You know, I don't want to be going to the parents' evening because that's boring. Or, you know, I don't want to be doing the whole school one, or, you know, I don't want to be doing the whole, you know, oh well, I have to buy the clothes part of it, or, you know, the financial part, because I only want to do the part that interests myself, and that part of being responsible. Sorry, my voice is really husky today. I think it was the sauna. I think I spent too long in the sauna. That part of co-parenting needs to be as equally balanced as the rest. I find that sometimes when you have that parent that only wants to do the fun side of things, it's almost like the other parent is like the bad guy. So, you know, the other parent is like, you know, well, I don't have to listen to you, or it causes conflict in terms of the level of respect, I would say, that the child has to give both parents. If one parent is not taking on as much parental responsibility and only wants to do the fun enjoyment stuff, it lacks it lacks in it lacks in respect. Yeah, so it lacks in respect for the child, and it lacks in respect also for the adult, for the other parent, which is on the other side of that fence, right? So that needs to be kind of balanced and fair. You know, you need to make sure that both parents can equally, you know, have this, you know, okay, yes, it may not be dad 50-50 in the middle, but both parents can be the fun parents. Both parents can be the parents that need to be just setting out the discipline. Both parents, you know, need to be the ones that, you know, you go to this parents' evening, I'll go to that one, or you do this activity, I'll do the other activity. It shouldn't be unbalanced where one is just all about fun and the other one is just like, you know, the drab, boring, you know, hard, you know, doing all of the harder chores or the harder tasks that come with parenting. So that was my first thoughts on parenting, right? So I'm gonna give out the call number one more time before I go into the next topic, and then we will expect some call-ins, right? So the number is 07852 478 168. And those of you that know me, obviously, clearly you have my number, right? So you don't need to take it down because you already have it. So don't overreact. I think this one is probably, you know, I overreact quite a lot, especially when I'm upset. So, you know, I guess in terms of overreacting, I have been on the side of co-parenting, and I've been on the side of in the relationship with the parenting. So I've experienced both. And I think trying not to overreact is very easily said than done, especially when you are not with the partner and you are co-parenting. It's almost like you are trying not to react to by your emotions, but that is what you are experiencing, that is what you are feeling, right? So to try to put that emotion aside and to think about what's best for the child would be the ultimate goal. How would you not put your how is that possible? How would you not? I guess it is possible. Maybe I shouldn't say that. It is possible, but it's extremely challenging, especially when you feel maybe unjust. Maybe that might not be the correct word, but I think unjust may be justified. Yeah. So if you feel unjust, it is extremely difficult not to react by emotion when it comes to co-parenting. And I think at the forefront of your mind in terms of it making that be successful in terms of not overreacting, you need to then take a breath, take a minute, and just, okay, cool, right, this is the situation. And I think it's about thinking logically as well, instead of reacting with emotion. So thinking logically, this is a situation, this is what's happened, this is, I need to come to some type of a solution or some type of, agreement as to how I can move forward, instead of feeling with your emotions and reacting in terms of, oh, I'm upset, I'm mad, right now I'm peed off, and I'm going to react because of how I feel. So I think in turn, you may have to just pause and, recollect your thoughts and think, okay, right, I'm not thinking and I'm not going to react via my emotions, but what I am going to react to is the facts on how and thinking about the facts and the issue and the solution. So when you can think about the facts, then you can say, okay, well, this is the issue, the communication is broken down, that's caused the problem. What is the solution? So the solution is for us to sit and discuss, or sit and try and talk about and find another avenue about how we are going to manage to get out of this issue, right? When we talk about co-parenting, I think about not overreacting. It's a bit frustrating from my own experiences, and okay, for someone else that I spoke to as well this week regarding co-parenting. When you have a parent that doesn't communicate with you, it's frustrating. So you then therefore react in a negative way, right? Because as far as you're concerned, you want this person to understand what you're trying to communicate to them, but they're not understanding. And I think they're not understanding as well. You sometimes now question if the child's interests are at the forefront of the decisions that are being made, right? So if the child's best interests are not at the decisions, it causes frustration. When it causes that frustration, it creates you to react. And then you react in a bad way. But instead of trying to react in a bad way, I zone out, zone out. That's my thing. Yeah, I'm taking a minute right now. I'm somewhere else. And then I can kind of come back a day, a few hours later and say, okay, right, cool, this is the issue. This is how it needs to be dealt with. Sometimes I don't even, sometimes I might not even go back to the issue. I might just be like, can't bother. But in the same respect, that may not be the best way to deal with things. So maybe don't follow that advice when it comes to that, right? But so the opposite of it is trying to remain calm. So I think about, a little bit of meditation at that moment, because you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling annoyed, you're feeling like you're not being listened to. But if you take a second out and then reassess the situation, I think we always say, the goal is that the children are happy, healthy, you know, that we can come together as a unit, regardless of whether we are together or not, and try to provide, you know, a safe environment, a healthy and safe environment for our children. So if that's the case, and that's the goal, you know, you shouldn't be thinking about yourself. You should always be thinking about the goal. And when you are frustrated, I kind of said this to someone else the other day. I was like, okay, as a mum, yeah, my experience is sometimes if I'm frustrated, I'm annoyed. No one cares. Like no one cares. That the whole point is right now you're a mum, so you need to do whatever it is that needs to be done, right? So, for example, it was a child's birthday, and there was, you know, a whole load of stuff going on, and I was like, right now it's not your time for you to be upset. And even though it was a bit no, I wouldn't say insensitive, but it was a bit harsh in terms of the deliverance. But it was true, and that was the fact. Right now is not your time for you to be upset. Right now is the time to celebrate your child's birthday. So if you want to be upset, you're going to have to be upset another time. If you want to discuss this, you're going to have to find another time to discuss it because right now is not the place nor the time. So with when it comes to parenting and you're thinking about, okay, yeah, let me try and put my thing, you know, my issues aside because I need to successfully co-parent right now. You know, for example, it's the child's birthday party. Co-parenting, you have to put your feelings aside many a times because you are not at the forefront of the issue and you are not at the forefront of the decision making. So the decision making should be, okay, what's best for the child. So, you know, as a parent, we often find that how you feel from time to time. I'm not saying every single day, right? From time to time, how you feel needs to be put on pause. Like that's how I look at it. Okay, yes, I might be frustrated, I might be annoyed, but right now, how I feel needs to be put on pause because that is not the main focus. That's not the main goal, right? You have your time, but right now you are a parent, right? And your children deserve your time, they deserve your attention, and they deserve you undivided, and that should be whole, right? So if you know that right now you're going through a moment, you have to keep that to adult time. You do that in your own time. It's not, you know, you're picking up your child, you're at a party, and you want to be having your own moment and having your own disagreements and discussions and all of this kind of stuff about parenting styles and all of this kind of business. It's not the time right now. Like the time for you to do that is in your own time, not at your child's birthday party. So right now your feelings don't matter. And it sounded a little bit harsh, but I think it's true. I think parents need to kind of put their own feelings slightly aside in terms of, you know, right now isn't your moment. And it's fine to be upset and it's fine to be annoyed because those are all feelings and you know, those are all okay. But the fact still remains the same. It's not your moment at this very moment, right? So if I go, okay. So I was just reading the message, right? Sorry. So if anyone wants to call in, I don't know, is my phone connected to the thingy? Would it be okay? Mm, the little parrot thing. Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. So yeah, it does work. Okay. I was just double checking, guys. Right. So I was just double checking. So yeah, it does work. So my other topic: keep a consistent schedule. Anyone that knows me, knows that I'm a little bit, yeah, you know, scheduling is really not my strong point, right? So it's not, you know, being organized, I would say, is definitely not my strong point, even though I get things done. So, hey, I get things done. But the scheduling and organization side of life um, is not my strongest thing that I do. But I can understand how it's important and um, how that impacts children and how that makes them I guess, no, how that impacts children and how that makes a difference, right? So, in the same respect, we need to also try and have as much as much input and as much organization skills as we possibly can. Now, we organize everyday things like dinner, we do have organization, but when you come to co-parenting, it's almost like you're trying to, and maybe that's why they said to meet your diaries, right, and your schedules, because I guess then it allows you to combine, I guess, one another's time to make sure that it's matching in terms of what needs to be done. So in terms of, school run, pick up after school club, la la la, those things, I guess it allows you to communicate one another's schedules, and be, and be more planned and aware, right? Because we're trying to make sure that these things are these things are in schedule, but keeping consistency. Now, I think being consistent as a parent is extremely difficult, um, especially when you are having to rely on, or I wouldn't say rely, but you're trying to work with somebody else's schedule, right? So you need to make sure that both of the schedules are free. That becomes challenging. Someone's working late, someone's working early. You have other things you want to do, but I guess, like I said from the get go, if the main goal is to have the children at the forefront, then in that circumstance, the diaries should merge and match with one another. I find that a lot of times, when people are co-parenting, from what I've seen from kind of, we find a lot of parents, I guess weekend parents, regardless if that be mums or dads, um, just do the minimal on a weekend. You don't see many co-parenting. I have a few, in actual fact, over the years. Um, Seen a few co-parents that take their kids football, and I've seen them every Friday at football club, you know. But it's not very rare. It's well, I shouldn't say. I said it's not very common, should I say? Excuse me. So in terms of these parents that are co-parenting, a lot of the schedules and a lot of the responsibilities, extracurriculum activities, in terms of things that need to be done even on a daily basis, um, sometimes is quite unbalanced. So I think when we're talking about co-parenting and we're talking about, okay, making sure that the schedules are balanced out. So if the load of what needs to be done, I guess, or the load of parenting is not hefty on one side of where the child resides. So, wherever the child is, at mum's house or at dad's house, that the dad doesn't have the load of the responsibility, or the mum doesn't have the load of the responsibility. Just because I live here doesn't mean that I have to do everything. Or just because, the child is staying with dad, it doesn't mean that I have to do minimal. It means that I still have to make an effort, a conscious effort, to put enough time in to make sure that, that child's just not seeing me just at weekends, but the child is seeing me, thoroughly throughout the week also. So keeping that consistent schedule is quite important, right? Disagreeing in private. I think I kind of covered that slightly when I was talking about, avoiding being a Disneyland parent. But disagreeing in private is quite a. I see many people. I've experienced it myself. I'm not keeping it real. Yeah, I've experienced it myself. You have a disagreement. Disagreement is in front of the children. Someone's upset. Someone's feeling, some type of a way, and disagreement overflows, should I say? So that overflows into the parenting style, into the environment of the child. Now, do I remember my mum and dad arguing? I think I remember my mum and dad having one argument when I was younger. I don't know how many arguments there were, but from what I remember there being one. So in terms of, I remember it. So I would assume that maybe my children also might remember the disagreement that I had with their dad. And I'm in my late 30s. So if I can remember it, I don't think it had a trauma trigger kind of thing. I'm not 100% sure. I never really looked into it like that. But in terms of it being a definite, do I remember? Has it stuck in my mind? Yes, it has. Would I say that it has made a vast difference? I don't think it has, but in the same respect, I don't think it's a healthy environment for children. So I think it's not a healthy environment for children to be able to having to hear the two parents disagreeing and bickering. You know, I guess I do know some people that have said, well, you know what, I just won't speak to you any at all. And I guess that is as damaging as hearing the parents actually argue. So vice versa, you need to make sure that there is some type of a healthy balance, because you can't be on this scale of the fence. You want to be, having full blown arguments, and then on that side, you don't want to be talking to anybody any at all. So you need to make sure that you can do it just just in the middle, just in the middle. You can't be arguing in front of your children. It's just like, no, it's not healthy. I see it, in actual fact, I saw a couple when I was driving this week. It was in the morning, so I don't know where they was going to, because they had the child like with them. So I don't know where they was going, because the child must have obviously not been in nursery or whatever, or school. So I don't know. But it was in the morning. I dropped my child to school, and these parents were like screaming at each other walking down the road, and I was just like, "Raw!" Like I was actually quite shocked, because it was really loud, and I think that's what drew my attention to it. But in the same respect, you know, the child is having to experience that bitterness, and I think we also have to remember that children are products of their environment. So if we are creating these environments for our children to hear this hostility, this, this bickering, this parents disagreeing, um, it's what are we expecting our children to do? So we are showing them that this is okay. So in terms of the argument, in terms of the whole bickering kind of noise situation, when I spoke about the two parents that are on this side of the fence in terms of not speaking to one another completely, um, I think it's quite unfair for two adults to bring a child into the world and not just disagree, but to fully decide that I don't want to chat to you. Like, I'm not speaking to you. There's no communication. There's no nothing. I think if you're an adult and you've made the decision to, have a child with somebody, okay, yeah, some people don't know in it, so you can't say like that's for every example or every circumstance. Cool, I get that. But in terms of you're an adult, you've had a child with somebody, your relationship has broken down, like my whole thing is you need to be making sure, and you need to be finding a way. There's many a very various ways to try to communicate with that person and put in the child, at the forefront, regardless of whatever type of relationship it is that you have now. Like, it's really important that a child can still see, that the parents are, you don't have to get along, you don't have to like the person, you don't have to be their best friend, you don't have to do any of that. You don't even, there is sometimes you don't even have to see the parent, but you communicate over telephone or email or whatever it may be, a little voice note here or there. But you can't say that you are completely going to, because you've disagreed on X, Y, and Z, that you're completely going to dismiss the person out of your life when you have a child with the person. Like, that's not co-parenting. That's selfishness. I'm sorry. Like, that's selfishness. I've experienced it, whereby, you're frustrating me, you're getting on my nerves. Like, I want to chat to you right now. But there was still what do I say? There was still a gap open in terms of, okay, I may not speak to you, but you know, there's your father. Like, it wasn't, I don't speak to you and I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't want to see you, you know. So you still have to make sure that you keep that line of communication open. It may be difficult, it may be challenging, but I think it's selfish. I think it's really selfish when you've got a parent that just saying, oh, you know, I don't speak to your dad, so you just don't see him. Like, what is that about? Like, no. That's selfish. And by any person, mother or father, that feels like a child doesn't need both parents. I understand, you know, some situations in terms of domestic violence, or you know, your parents no longer here. One of the parents may have perished. I don't, you know, there's some unforeseen circumstances here. So those unforeseen circumstances, we can see with those, but we cannot just be on a kind of high and mighty. Well, I just don't talk to him, you know, like he ain't got nothing to do with me. He ain't got nothing to do with my child. Like, that's dumb. That's selfish and that's stupid, because what you're doing in turn is you're hurting your own child. Do you understand? So you're hurting your own child coming back and thinking like, oh, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to, you know, I don't have to be in any type of a, I wouldn't say relationship, but in any type of communication or any type of, you know, social relationship with this person, but you have a child with them. Like, it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Right. I am going on a short break. So we're going for a pause for the pause, because last week I took the whole 2 hours and I was tired, brethren. Yeah. So this week we're having a break. Okay. So we are going to I need a break for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm gonna put some music on. You can just vibe to that. It's a banging little tune. I listened to it earlier on today, and I'm gonna, you know, we're gonna just have 2 minutes, and we're gonna be right back. So 2 minutes, guys. Right? Thank you. Right, where did I put that song now? Okay, so this one. Okay, I'm learning. I'm getting there slowly, because I need help and assistance, right? Yeah, because this is not easy. I need help and assistance. Right. So this one is my mic, right? What do you want? What on the mic? Oh yeah. Hello? Hello? Okay, right. Okay, cool. Yeah? Okay. Is that better? Mic check 1, 2, 3. I don't know what's happening. How are we sounding live on the YouTube stream, please, guys? Is it all right, clear? Is it fuzzy? What's I need a bit of feedback, please. Someone say like, yeah, thumbs up, it's good, or you know, it could be better. Like, is there something I need to tweak? Is there like, you know, let me know if I'm sounding okay, please, guys. All right, I need to know. I need to know. Let's see. Oh, right. How's that working? Who said they got a gun loudspeaker? Hello?
Hi, Shan.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, it's really weird because do I need to turn off the radio? Get off the YouTube because I can hear myself.
Yeah, or just turn the volume down.
Okay, let me try and do this. Okay. I think I'm all right.
Okay, I can hear you loud and clear. Oh, it's good. We're all confused in the studio, like, I don't know what's happened, but okay, something's happened. It's clearly a good thing, so we're running with that. So, you've got good experience with co-parenting, right?
Yeah.
And
well, mainly positives.
Oh, good.
Negatives.
Yeah, that's good. No, because we need to share the positives and the bads. I remember a few.
Yeah. So first of all, though, I do want to say well done for going solo. You did absolutely fabulous. Very proud. It's lovely to see. As I just texted you and said, I've been listening from the bath.
Lovely.
My Wednesday evening entertainment.
Oh, thank you, baby.
In the bath, but no, well done. But yeah, so actually the signal kept going in and out when I was in the bath, so I'm not quite sure how much you covered, but
Okay.
I think it's really, really challenging when you separate with somebody and you've got children if you kind of have different parenting values. That's the first thing.
Yeah,
I think it's challenging enough if you're living in the same household and you have different parenting values.
But when you separate, do you think it's even it brings a different dynamic to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you don't. I think, especially at the beginning, the respectful dialogue that you should have isn't always there. I mean, in some cases it is, but you know, when emotions are running really high and you know, there's some level of tension, as there quite often is during separations. I think that the difference in parenting values and parenting strategies gets kind of heightened during that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
how do you feel like when you just said about you know, the relationship when it's broken down, and you know, the level of respect between two people, how do you feel like would be a good way to try and keep that to the forefront of, you know, your discussions and what you're going through at that time?
Okay, so for me personally, I've worked with children and families for over 22 years, mainly in like obviously domestic abuse fields and supporting children and families in safeguarding situations, etc. So I've seen the absolute extremes. I also have 4 children myself, and I think there's absolutely no magic formula at all. However, for me, the most important thing and the key thing, and it is so difficult to do, I think, at a point of separation and in that immediate period, is to remember that the child is the most important, or the children are the most important entities in the whole situation. But actually, you have to doesn't matter if there was infidelity, it doesn't matter what was going on, you have to kind of put your feelings aside, as long as there's no massive safety risks, obviously, you know, with violence or anything. But you have to put your feelings aside about the situation and just remember that the child is the most important thing, because there's so much parental alienation that goes on. With one parent slagging off the other parent, or stopping them seeing the child. And if you put yourself back to when you were a child, and how that might make you feel. I came from a home where my parents had separated when I was very young. I was very fortunate that I had my stepfather in my life, who was absolutely fantastic, and he's been around for the last 35 years. And I'm very fortunate in that way. But I think I can't remember what I was saying. I lost what I was saying. But I think it's just having the children at the forefront of everything, and it doesn't your feelings around it.
Because that's what I was saying. Like, literally, I had the same issue the other day when I was like, it was a people was having their issue, and I was like, look, right now your feelings don't care. No one cares. Like, no one cares about how it was at a party. I was like, no one cares about how you feel right now. Like, the main objective is the child, and it's really harsh to say that, because it's almost like you're saying, like, what? I'm like, I'm like, listen, no one cares about how you feel right now. You are not at the forefront of this issue. If you want to be upset and sad, be upset and sad in your own time, innit? Like, I felt it was a bit harsh, but it was needed.
No, I completely agree. And children they're not stupid. They know when things are going on. It doesn't matter what age they are. They could be 6 months old, or they could be 16. Children pick up on tension, and they know what's going on. So the best thing that you can do, if the relationship is over, I think in those initial stages, is to try to be as amicable as possible. But again, as I said at the beginning, I think the difference, when you've got a difference in values in parenting, or even with different boundaries, for instance, so say you've got a teenager and one is saying, that teenager can be out until 11 o'clock at night, and the other one's saying, hello, no, that child has to be in at 6 p.m. Then the teenager is going to want to be with the parent that's probably more lenient. And I think that collaborative parenting, where you can communicate, and you can say, okay, we have different values, but actually what we need to do here is to find a common ground, so that even though you're living in separate homes, you're still coming with a united front to that child. So the child knows they can't play one off against another. That can't work. Yes, you might be able to do different things in different households, but the basic core boundaries are the same across the board. And it's so important. But unfortunately, I think what happens is feelings, adult feelings, get in the way. And I think if anybody says, God, there may be, people out there that have been able to do it 100% amicably, and it's been lovely. And
I wasn't so amicable. I think that's rare. You know me. I wasn't so amicable. But I definitely understand what I can see in terms of the differences in successful co-parenting, and also as well, you can see the difference in the children. Even when you talk about, because I can see the difference in you and the difference in me, and we are grown adults. You know what I mean? In terms of the way Dad was with you and X, Y, and Z, and in terms of the relationship that that I've had with my parents. Obviously, we're still different people, so there's going to be different differences. But in terms of the co-parenting and how that worked and how that was structured, I can see that there's like real differences. In terms of how it was done and what worked and what didn't. When I thought about it, I was like, I think keeping a consistent schedule can be so hard. And I kind of merged it with the whole thing of using a joint calendar. Like, I feel like one parent is always kind of slightly overloaded more than the other, even though it would be nice to have it, equally split across the board. But in terms of a child living with one parent, I feel like sometimes the co-parenting thing is kind of like thrown down to a weekend, and really it should be fair across the board.
I think so obviously my parents split up, I think, when I was 2, and obviously mum and dad, and they both live within 5 minutes of each other, and they did that deliberately so that I could go, kind of freely almost between two homes. But I would do a week at one, a week at the other, and it actually worked really well. And they had a very, very good co-parenting relationship. It wasn't always like that, I don't think, at the beginning.
No,
but
I think that's always like a give daddy's
yeah,
news, though, isn't it? Really?
Yeah,
Because he's the calm one.
Well, yeah, but I think it somehow, they're not, I wouldn't say each other's greatest fans at the best of times, but,
They put that aside for you, though.
Yeah, but they put it aside and they made it work. And the one thing I have to say is that I never, because I actually went and permanently lived with my dad when I was 14, but I never heard him ever say a word against my mum. I think that is so key to things, because actually what happens is then the child grows up to be resentful to the parent that's slagging off the other parent, because you think it's really not necessary. And actually, in terms of identity, if you're slagging off one half of someone's parent, you're slagging off half of them.
Half of the child,
so for identity reasons, that's you're criticizing your child, and that can be really, really damaging, I think.
Yeah, I think as much as I was thinking about it, and I know, like, obviously we spoke about, like, not, some parents not seeing the child completely. I understand, you've got your disagreements, and you don't speak to one another or whatever, but I feel like that slightly overruns into kind of like, well, I just don't need to see you, kind of, like, just slightly like full dismissal of the other person. And when I looked at it and I kind of thought about it and I've kind of processed, I was like, nah, you can't fully dismiss like a child's other parent. Like, I was just like, you kind of have to, if you really want the best for your child, you kind of have to jump through hoops to engage the parent as much as you possibly can, right? To make sure that the parent is going to be there. But I feel like some parents are kind of like, I've tried once, I've tried twice, I can't be bothered. And that's kind of like, well, I tried, kind of thing. And I'm like, well, it's only your child that it's affecting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think, so for instance, now I'm, 4.5, maybe 5 years down the line from separating from my husband, and we've got a really good co-parenting relationship.
I love it.
He has them every weekend. So it was, to begin with, actually, it was every weekend, which was really difficult for me because I wanted some weekend.
Yeah, because otherwise some fun stuff too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I also then have to appreciate that actually, if I've got custody, so to speak, Monday to Friday, then actually it's only fair that the parenting time is passed over to him on Friday
and even when you think about it, like, it's only 8 days a month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm really, really fortunate, and I'm really glad actually that we got to a place that we can co-parent really well. And our relationship is very boundaried. It's we don't sit there discussing EastEnders and whatever else. It's always,
when it comes to decision making, in terms of making decisions about, I don't know, like, it could be small things like what extracurricular activities, or picking schools, or how does the decision making go? Is that still kind of split, or is that
it's kind of joint done? So for instance, I have a lot of friends who have had vaccination debates.
Okay, yeah.
with their exes about whether or not to vaccinate the child.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I can see that could bring about a whole load of conflict. However, I know that obviously, because like with my ex-husband, for instance, that we were together, and I know what his viewpoints are. So when we've discussed it, we have exactly the same viewpoint on it. And it was I kind of ran it past him. Sorry, you can hear them all in the background. I knew what his viewpoints were, but I still ran it past him and said, okay, we're all on the same page when it comes to this. And it's like, So I think, if you've got that that kind of relationship, then that's great. But obviously, we knew each other very well because we were married and all the rest of it. However, obviously, there's children that are conceived not through relationships or not through marriage. It might be through a one night stand, and actually, you've got no idea about anything to do with that parent. Yeah. And then in that situation, then you've got to kind of learn all about the other person in order to work out how you're going to co-parent. So that's a whole nother task in itself, I think, to be able to do that. At least, even things like trigger points. There's certain things that I don't bring up or won't say or, have a conversation about because I know it will cause World War III. So it's better just to avoid that subject or, But then the person. So if you don't know the person, that's a whole.
You're kind of working it out as you go, aren't you? You're slightly kind of like figuring out, how flat is this ironing board as you're going along the road, which is I guess quite another challenge.
Yeah, definitely. So go on.
I was thinking about keeping a consistent schedule, and this is what really knacks me. Like I think. People, you sometimes, you get sidetracked with your own life, right? And I guess if you're not the live-at-home parent, it's easy for you to be distracted with whatever else is going on because you've got for example, let's just say, for example, you've got another whole 5 days, right? And I feel like sometimes that doesn't successfully overlook, what should be done with the child. So, for example, trying to be consistent, I think, is probably one of the most annoying things when it comes to co-parenting.
What, for the non-resident parent, you mean?
No, for the resident parent.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the resident parent, in terms of the other parent being inconsistent with what you're doing. Like, so in terms of, you're going to take the child every other weekend, or you're going to take the child every weekend, or you're going to start picking them up from, I don't know, ballet or whatever it is. But then, over a period of time, that consistency starts to slack. So, you find an excuse this week, I've got work late, or I've got to do this, or I've got to do that, or this, that, and the other, I've got to do overtime. And I think that causes a lot of frustration, but also, I guess, as the parent may not have even seen it. I'm just thinking about this now on the spot. The actual parent that may not have even seen it, cancelling plans that you've actually let down a child.
Yeah. I think lots of parents will see it possibly even more from a selfish point of view, that it's caused hindrance to their plans. Because if you've got because lots of people their child or their children will only go to the non-resident parents, say, once a fortnight for one night, or once a month even for one night, depending on locality of where they live. And I think it. And I've been in that situation before where I'd had all these great plans for an amazing weekend, and then was told last minute, and they're sorry, I can't do that for whatever reason.
How did you respond?
So I responded, well, you better find somebody else to take your place then, because I've got plans. So, and then but then that's going to lead into a conflict. And I mean, my thing is, if I, on a Tuesday evening, wanted to do something, I would have to find somebody to look after my children, so I could do that. So if you have something else to do, it shouldn't always fall back then on the resident parent to do it, or vice versa.
I think that's quite frustrating. It does. I think that is almost like, like you said, we have to find, alternative arrangements, but it's almost like I don't have to find alternative arrangements because you're there. Like, that's highly frustrating.
Yeah, and it is. And I think the impact on the children, especially if they're really looking forward to going to mums or dads, whoever the non-resident parent is. Because I've got a lot of male friends who have custody of their children, and they go for visitation at their mums. So things have really obviously changed now a lot, where there's a lot of guys I know that have got full custody of their children, and so it's not a dad thing, that's often the non-resident parent. I think it's equaling out a lot more now.
Yeah. What do you think about this? So Someone said, Nick, oh, hi, Nick. So Nick has said, once you're inconsistent, you lose your right to get your 50-50 input.
Again,
I think if it's consistently, I think if you're consistently inconsistent, I feel like yes, because you are showing that you are not reliable. You are not you're not being reliable, and it's showing that your thoughts and your thought process, it doesn't have the child at the forefront of that. So I feel like if that is going to be something that you're going to be consistently showing that type of behavior, you're consistently being a letdown. You know, it's always an excuse. It's always this, that, and the other. I think after a certain amount of time, yeah. But then is that now us acting, as we said before, is that now us acting on our frustration and how we feel, or are we still doing it for the benefit of the child?
So I think you have to, there comes a point, I do agree. I think, I think if there's, one or two occasions and it just causes frustration to that parent, then I think actually, you need to be thinking about the children properly. Yeah, I'd say, to be thinking about the children actually still what's in their best interest, and if the children are at an appropriate age, to have a conversation with them about it. However, I think if you have a non-resident parent that continuously doesn't show up, or say, for instance, they're due to collect the child every Friday after school, but they don't turn up. Or, they're meant to collect them on a Saturday morning to take them to football, and they consistently don't turn up. And you can see the pain and devastation that it's causing that child, then that is causing trauma to that child, I think. And then you have to have a conversation. And again, though, it's about having those communication, that positive level of communication with the non-resident parent or the other parent, to just say to them, what is going on? Is there something that we can do to make this better for the child, so that they don't feel let down, so that it's not that you're going to them, all guns blazing, shouting and screaming.
You have to try and communicate it in a clear and direct way.
Yeah. As much as in those situations, you want to shout and scream and F and blind and say, how dare you treat this child like that? I think you also have to say, okay, what is going on in their life at the moment that is causing them to act like that, and whether or not it's that you say, okay, look, you can come to the house to see the child, or you can, why don't we meet in a park or something? So I would say, so I've said with families that have had this kind of situation before, I have said, okay, so if dad's really reliable and you've established that, over a period of time, he has been incredibly inconsistent, hasn't turned up the majority of the time, then the most important thing is not to have that child feeling let down, because obviously that's going to cause problems throughout childhood and into adulthood for that child. So I would say to make an arrangement to go to a park or whatever, to say to the other parent at 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, I'm going to be at the park. So if you turn up, it would be really nice, because then, whatever the child is called can then see you and spend time with you. And if not, that's fine, because we're still going to go to the park and enjoy our day. So then you go to the park.
It's not about the parent, but it's about the activity, really, isn't it? It's just still allowing the opportunity to be there.
Yeah, and then I wouldn't even mention it to the child, because what you don't want is the child then
be let down again. So that's what she said as well. She also said, because the resident parent has always left picking up the pieces, which is extremely true, and it can become almost that you are forever feeding into somebody else's negativity. So the other parent is forever being a letdown. You're forever forgetting about the child. You're being inconsistent. La la la. But it's almost like I'm always having to fix the pieces that you've consistently just continued to break, really. You're just letting down the child left, right, and center with no regards of how the child feels. The child's left crying, this, that, and the fourth, but yet still you're not here.
Yeah. And also, I think it's really important for that child not to hear those kind of conversations, not to overhear you on the phone.
So when we said as well, don't overreact and disagree in private. And I don't know how many of us. Okay, so right, let's take it back a little bit, right? Because you got a big child, and that co-parenting experience wasn't as great as the last, right? So if you look at the two experiences, because I had to think about my own experiences of co-parenting, and when, you know, our situation was different. And this is why when I said about, you know, going to other family members, so you can still have a sense of identity of where you come from. You know, like the love may not come directly from that parent, but you still have that family around, right? So in the same respect, you know, I kind of looked at it as, okay, well, yeah, I can't, you know, right now I can't communicate with you because, you know, of X, Y, and Z, and I think it's best maybe for a short time that we don't communicate. But yet still, I've still kept the you know, I've still kept the line of communication open via a third party.
Yeah, and also, but again, that's in the child's best interest, because I think if you're, you know, if you can't maintain that relationship with the other parent, then that child has a right to know who they are, where they come from, what, you know, even so much as like medical history. You know, there's so many people that are having children and have got no relationship with the other family and know nothing about, you know, about ancestral history or about medical stuff, or you know,
a lot of something hereditary. I didn't even think of it like that.
And that can cause huge problems. You know, every time you go to the doctors, you go to the hospital, they'll say, have you got a family history of blah, blah, blah. Well, if you haven't got a relationship with the other side of your family, how do you know? You might have a long list of diabetes in the family, you might have a long list of strokes or, you know, heart attacks or whatever. And if you don't know, then actually you are actually kind of putting yourself at a bit of risk. So I do think even if it's not with the other parent, if you can, if there's an opportunity to have that relationship with the family, because that sense of identity for that child is absolutely critical to their well-being, and, you know, for how they kind of conduct themselves as adults in adulthood.
Because I look here and I think, okay, you know, I know that you know, the older situation may be very different. It may not be as smooth sailing, because we learn as we're going along, right? So it may not be as smooth sailing as the first. But I read something earlier on, and it was talking about parenting plan, and I was just like, whoa, hold up a minute, parenting plan? That definitely not that definitely not that organized, right?
The parents put together. The co-parent.
Well, I think it's more like a parenting plan of, you know, in terms of your parenting style, in terms of your wishes, in terms of, you know, what your parenting looks like. You know, like so I guess if you then happen to co-parent, at least you've kind of got a plan of what, you know, it should be structured as. Does that make sense? I think that's what I think.
I mean, again, I go back to the fact that, you know, if you know the person, you've been in a relationship with them, you should kind of know their parenting style. And if you don't, then you make sure in those 9 months that you're pregnant, you kind of get to know. I think it kind of depends on what the people are like. Like, I'm not that organised, nor do I have the time to sit down and write a parenting plan. To be honest, if I asked my ex-husband to do a parenting plan with me, he'd probably just laugh and walk off. So, and I think life brings up so many different situations and eventualities that you can't always plan for. I've got 4 children. I've got situations going on, pretty much all of them at the moment. They're all new situations, and I've got no idea how to deal with it. And I wouldn't have been able to put that in a parenting plan. Oh, well, you know, if this happens to my daughter, I will do this, and I expect you to do this. It's just not. It's just wouldn't be feasible.
I think it. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's realistic. I think. I don't think it is, to be honest. I don't know what type of people have a parenting plan, but I was just like, it might be a good thing if, you know, people plan lots of things. I guess people that like plan to have children in years ahead, maybe that might be, you know, part of their kind of structure of their parenting plan. I don't know, but I don't know. For me, I think a parenting plan was never kind of the issue. I want to try and figure out in terms of, because I spoke about tips and I gave, like, you know, a few bullet points in terms of great communication, X, Y, and Z. What I wanted to try and do is I want to try and figure out, if you have a situation, how you can, like a scenario, how can you change that and kind of give an example of how you can change a bad situation to be a good situation. So can you give me an example of a parenting situation that maybe wasn't as good in terms of co-parenting, and how you managed to change that to something positive?
Let's see.
Have you ever disagreed it in front of your children?
What post separation after
Either or either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not abnormal then.
Oh God, no, I don't know. Yeah, no, God, no. I don't know anybody that can say hand on heart they've never disagreed in front of children. No, I think as long as it doesn't, get to ridiculous kind of levels where you're thrown, But God, yeah. There's been countless times where there's been conflict.
Do you document everything? Do you think that? No. Document everything that happens between, like, in terms of.
I think if you're going through court proceedings, you have no choice but to do that.
I don't know.
Yeah. So if you're going through court proceedings, to say there's, you might be going through a whole, custody battle, or a divorce, or you're trying to evidence unreasonable behaviour.
Okay, right, but that doesn't reflect positive co-parenting if you're doing that, then, does it really?
No, I think you can have two people that think that they're both trying to work in the best interest of the children, but they just can't agree, and so therefore you have to go to a court for the court to make the decision.
Yeah.
And I think that happens, and I think that can happen when you've got two really great parents, but they just can't agree on stuff. And actually the majority of parents, I don't think, come into a situation with their child or go to court over their child to necessarily be malicious. A lot do, but I think there's a lot that don't. And I think even going back to the vaccination thing that I was talking about earlier. So I know of cases whereby one parent has been absolutely adamant that they want their child vaccinated. The other one is absolutely opposite end of the spectrum, saying absolutely not, no way. And the parent that wants the child vaccinated has taken the other parent to court because they've both got 50-50 parental responsibility.
So then the judge makes that
decision? Then the judge makes that decision, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. So, and it's not actually that one parent is necessarily right and one is wrong, because we've all got our opinions. It's that, because they both think that what they're doing is in the best interest of the child. So obviously, the one parent that wants to vaccinate feels that is, to protect the child, but actually the other parent is going to think that actually by you keeping the child healthy by not vaccinating. So they've just got there's nothing malicious in it, just completely different perspectives on what's best for the child, and therefore then that's down for a judge to decide on what way it goes, and it does usually go one way.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of a harsh one, because then I guess if you kind of lose, which someone is going to, innit? If you kind of lose, you're going to be feeling a little bit Sour Patch doll kind of situation.
Yeah, of course. And whichever one loses and wins, it's going to be, it's going to be really, really, really tricky, because, and in any situation, I think when it comes to parenting, or, so there might be situations, I know I've worked with so many families who will say, the parent that's got the child the majority of the time, for instance, wants to move away for a job, or wants to move away because they've got a new partner. And at the moment they live 10 minutes away, but actually if they move, they're going to be a 4-hour round trip. It's going to be a 4-hour round trip or even longer. And then what happens? Because then the other parent is perfectly within their rights to put in place what's called a prohibited steps order.
Yeah, to stop you from going.
To stop you from going. Yeah, because it will impact on their relationship. But the other one might say, well, actually, I can't get work around here, and I need to travel. I need to move in order to be able to get work. I've got a good promotion. So again, that's down to a judge to decide. But again, I think if you can have that open dialogue and positive communication, you can avoid the whole stress and turmoil of going through court proceedings. And I think it's more of a last, any kind of mediation you can do beforehand. Yeah, it's critical, because it's parenting is hard enough.
Rather than
when
trying
you're
to
doing
throw
it.
at each
Yeah,
other's throats in the bloody court of law.
absolutely. And you've got to think, if you're
And the
stressed,
child as well. Can you imagine what the child
Yeah,
feels like?
yeah,
And remember,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
trying to do this for the benefit of the children. So if you're doing that, can you imagine how the child feels? Oh, my mum and dad are going to court because they're arguing over X, Y, and Z. Do you know, like, I think it then slightly defeats the object, in actual fact, of trying to successful co-parent.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think if when you're under, what I know for me personally, if I'm under immense stress with, whether or not it be work or, if there's a bereavement going on or whatever's going on, the way that I parent is impacted.
Yeah, without a doubt, yeah.
Because
and those things can take months.
Yeah, exactly, and years as well. So if you're going through that whole kind of thing, you've got to both think how much it's impacting, and actually, is there another resolution? Is there something else that we can do, or a compromise that we can make, so that we're not dragging the kids through the courts? And quite often, if a child's of a certain age, the child will be asked to come into the court to give their viewpoint on, whatever it is. Yeah, and I think it can be really, really, it's traumatic for everybody involved. So I think as soon as you can have that kind of amicable relationship, and it's great, like in my situation, it's absolutely great. And there's occasionally the odd crossword, but I have to say it's probably maybe once a year, if that. And it's not even really a crossword, it's just, maybe a difference of opinion or a bit of a, huffing and puffing over something. But on the whole, it's a really, really positive relationship, and it's so much easier because if you think about it, you're parenting on your own. Like I said, it's so difficult. Parenting is so, oh my God, it's just draining, it's exhausting. It brings all the wonderful positive stuff up, but it's really bloody hard work. And I think if you've got that, you've got that support. So say you've got a teenager that's acting up, and you can say, well, actually, do you know what? I'm going to ring your dad and see what he's got to say about it. It's to be able to do that is great. If you haven't got that, it can be quite kind of isolating, quite lonely, I think. Parenting.
And it can also be detrimental to the young person as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It can also be detrimental and isolating for them. I saw a thing that said I don't know how you feel about this, but so it says, as co-parents, you need ongoing communication to be able to coordinate your child's life. If the child is older, or if you schedule weekly on and off co-parenting, then once a week may be enough. Now, I don't know about that should co-parents talk every day? Do you think that's crossing the boundary? I don't think you need to talk every day. I don't think there's nothing to talk about every day.
Personally, I think it's down to the individuals.
Yeah, no,
personally, I don't want to talk to them every day. I've got a life to be getting on with. I don't want to be having a conversation every day and hearing a voice. So for me, even my youngest, who is 6, he's just got a phone with a it's not a contract or even a page. It's just got a page to go through, so he can just use the internet when he's in the house. So when he wants to talk to his dad, he will FaceTime him from himself. That's fine. I don't need to even. And he's 6 years old, so I don't really, So if something crops up at school, or there's, an issue in schools, or whatever's going on, then absolutely, of course, keep them informed. Even if he falls over and bumps his head at school, let me just send a quick text message and say, oh, by the way, he's fallen over, or whatever it is, or if I've got to do Calpol, whatever the situation is, I will always inform him. But actually, in terms of talking every day, I think it's whatever works for those people. But for me personally,
it obviously works for someone. But I don't want to be talking to you every day. I don't think that there's a need. I think if you're talking to, I guess if it's about a specific subject, that's fine. Yeah. Like if there's something that needs to be updated about this, or there's an ongoing issue that you may need to update daily because the issue is that, then I think that's slightly different. But I think if it's just like a check-in, I think technology has also changed that slightly, as you're saying. Children are having their own phones, and they can do all of this stuff. They got FaceTime and blah blah blah. So I guess that they're able to communicate themselves especially if your child is old enough. You know, if they're having any issues or, you know, whatever it is that they might want to share specifically with mummy or specifically with daddy.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, sharing different things with different parents at different times. Because I think children always kind of, you know, you might speak to mummy a little bit more at this time, or you might speak to daddy a little bit more at this time, or whatever it is, and have a different type of relationship. But I think, yeah, you know, I think the parents maybe need to check in, you know, every so often, I would say.
Yeah, whenever, and you know, and that's absolutely fine. But actually, when I haven't got them, I very, very rarely make contact, because I think it's like their special time. Yeah, because it's their special time. Yeah, and if I'm calling up, especially with the little one who's very attached to me, if I'm calling up every 5 minutes, it's unsettling. It's interrupting what they're doing. You know, my teenagers don't want to talk to me 95% of the time anyway, so they wouldn't answer the phone even if I did call. But you know, so I just don't think that. Yeah, especially when they're older, you know, they can have they you know, whatever age they have the communication with their dad, and that's it. But I don't think, no, I don't. I think that daily contact for me personally, I'm sure it does work for lots of people. And maybe if, for instance, you know, the resident parent is really struggling emotionally with a particular situation that's going on, parenting, then, you know, maybe offering that regular support for that short period of time, fine. But for me personally,
when we was co-parenting, I dropped you off on a Friday and I saw you on a Sunday. You know, like I didn't feel like the need that I needed to still be attached to my children. I know that you're with your father. I know that, you know, you're with your dad. That if he needs anything, he's gonna shout me. Do you know? Like, I don't need to. I don't need to be on the phone every night. Oh, good night. I hope you have a good sleep. Like that's at that specific time, it's not my place.
No, and actually, I think it's really important. You know, with the saying about, you know, you can't fill someone else's cup unless yours is full, whatever that saying is. It's so important for you to recharge as an adult and have that time. So when I don't have my children, I love to utilize that time just to do adult things. That sounds a bit dodgy, but you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Just to do,
I know what you mean.
Just to be an adult.
You're having time as yourself, as in, like, hello, I'm not mum right now. I'm
continuously.
So in terms of you're zoning out from being a parent, and you're just having time of processing who you are.
Definitely. Definitely. And that's really important. So actually, you know, I love my children dearly, and they're the most important things. But actually, sometimes I just want full 48 hours where I just do me. I think that's all right as well, to be able to do that. And actually, then if I had, you know, when I've got the children continuously, or when he has, then, and I was contacting every 5 minutes, it would just be too much.
Yeah, it'd be frustrating. What do you think about sharing holidays? So I always struggled when it came to school holidays and so forth, in terms of it wasn't, you know, split down the middle. I always felt that it should have been, but it wasn't. And that frustrated me. It was annoying. But I, you know, I just dealt with the situation. I just dealt with what was at hand, and it really and truly it is what it is.
I think planning in advance is absolutely critical. So that each year, say you do alternate Christmases, or, you know, alternate New Year's, or whatever you do, and that summer holidays always planned in advance. So especially like when you're both working full time, you say, you know, well, I'm going to take 2 weeks annual leave here, you take 2 weeks annual leave there, and perhaps, you know, the rest of the time we'll share childcare fees, or, you know, whatever it might be. But planning in advance, so, you know, between, you know, 10th of August and the 24th of August, you have them and I have them the rest of the time, or whatever it is, so that it's so you're absolutely crystal clear about what's going on. Because I think that communication, and I think the most important thing for me actually that really worked, so there was no kind of discrepancy or arguments about, oh, well, you said this, or no, you didn't say that, was I put everything in either a text or an email in black and white in the beginning. So it's much easier now, but at the beginning it was, okay, so just to confirm, following on for our conversation, you will pick up at 5 o'clock on Friday, and I'll come back and get them from you at 6 o'clock on Sunday. Is that okay? And then they confirm that, yes. So you've got that. So they can't say, oh, well, you never said that you wanted me to have them all weekend. I thought I was just having them for one night. So none of that goes on, because then you can refer to it. And I think that, because that does kind of, in lots of situations, I think lots of friends I know, that kind of thing does go on. So that being absolutely clear with what's happening.
Sure the communication is transparent. Okay.
Yeah, but I certainly don't have all the answers. But
no, me neither, because obviously, you know,
it's hard. It's really hard.
I remember a stage where my co-parenting didn't even go well. You know, like, so
No,
now I'm here having this whole conversation about it, thinking, oh, hold on a minute, it didn't go so great when I was doing it. I didn't look at all these tips and tricks, but you know what? It's nice to still look back at the experience and see, you know, where we went wrong, what I could have done, you know, differently, what I've learned, and you know what impact it has. So
because actually, this is why shows like this are really good, because quite often you'll have listened to podcasts or listen to things on YouTube or whatever, and people are talking about, what doesn't work, or complaining about a situation. And you talk to your friends and they'll say, oh, moaning about their ex and what's going on and everything. But actually, rarely do you hear people saying, well, actually, what did work and what's positive and what has worked for you, because that's where you learn. So if there's other people to call in to show now or text and tell me what was, please do.
Yeah, please. What do you think that worked? Or even in actual fact, Ash, what do you think that worked? Oh, in actual fact, I can ask you. What do you, Mr. Brando, over there very quietly, what do you think that worked? What could you pinpoint a specific thing that you could say, oh, you know what, this person has done this, or she advised that we do this, and it worked in terms of co-parenting? I'll give him a second to think about that. So what I always feel like, okay, I think from my own personal experiences, when I think about when I was co-parenting, I think the thing that worked until it didn't work was having that set time, and that time that you was with them, and that was your time. Do you know, like, it wasn't, you know, like, you'd call for stupidness. Oh, you know, it's got a stomachache. Do I buy paracetamol? Yes, you buy Palpol. You know, like, but it wasn't it. And I learned that time wasn't really for me. That was for the children, for them to spend with their dad. Do you know, like, I think that was the co-parenting thing that I kind of took. In terms of our communication, it wasn't great. I'll just be honest, it wasn't great at all. There was lots left to be desired in that situation. But in terms of me not interrupting your time with them, and just leaving you to actually parent. Do you know, like that? I can't parent for you, but I had to leave you to do your parenting style in your own way and just get on with it. There were a few times where I did intervene, but on a whole, I think I tried my hardest to just leave that situation and just let that naturally take place over there, because it wasn't my business.
Yeah. I think being boundaried in every sense of the word is really, really critical.
That's your co-parenting advice, boundaries. Set those boundaries, man.
That you've got to be really clear in every single way, depending on the circumstance, but being boundaried with what what's what, and just setting some ground rules, I guess, from the beginning. And I think I'm very, very fortunate actually with my situation.
Happy for you
now.
I didn't mean that in a horrible way, but no, literally, I am happy.
No, but it's, I wouldn't say, but you know.
I know.
You know what I'm like. I can be a little bit fiery at times, so So considering that is almost a miracle, but it's that it's very smooth running, and
Do you like my jumper? So I've got my own I've got my own.
I know, I
Converse
saw
with
it.
Fan jumper, look.
I know. I might get one as a fan.
Yay. So what will be, I don't know if I'm having merchandise, but I say maybe having merchandise, guys. But yeah, this is the Shan Converse with Shan jumper. So hey, it's cute.
Yes.
Like myself. Right, thank you very much.
I'm going to love you, leave you,
Yeah,
and I'll listen to the rest of the show.
Yes.
All right, love.
Take care. See you soon.
Yes, well done. Love you, bye.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you. Don't know why I've got okay, I'll ignore that for now. Okay, that's fine. That's not important. So I'm gonna just have a quick recap. Only the last like 10 minutes or so, like 15 minutes. And I'll come back to Adam with that question in a minute. So today's recap is about co-parenting and how we can successfully co-parent, what mistakes we've learned along the way, what we feel like we could have done better, what we feel like has impacted our children, how we impact them, and how also the irresponsible co-parent and the inconsistency of that as well, and what that looks like and how we should try to manage that. So we had our tips. We also had our motto of the week. So guys, remember the motto of the week. And it's not just for parents that are co-parent as well. It's also for parents that are together. It's also for single parents, right? Because, you know, every situation is different. So it's just for parents in general, right? So the motto of the week this week was the best security blanket a child can have is two parents that respect each other. So, you know, you can change that up in terms of, you know, the best security blanket a child can have is a parent that, you know, also respects themselves, a parent that also, you know, respects the child. So you can change that up into however it suits your lifestyle, basically, right? You can change it up to how it suits your lifestyle. We had tips, so in terms of what works and what doesn't work in terms of parenting. Well, I wouldn't say what doesn't work. I would maybe I worded that wrong, right? I did. It was like a bullet points as to what we think co-parenting should consist of. That's what it was. So it was bullet points of what co-parenting should consist of. So it was communication, effective communication. It was document everything, especially I guess in as she was saying in the beginning stages, you know, when you need that clarification of, you know, what someone has said, so you know the ball mark doesn't change. Keep a consistent schedule. So, you know, we explained how that inconsistency, how it affects the child and how that also affects the resident parent, and, you know, and the upset that it can cause, right? Not overreacting, trying not to overreact, trying to remain calm, which I know is a challenging one, but we also have to remember that it's not about us. It's not about our feelings as the parent. It is about the child. And, you know, if you want to have your feelings later or tomorrow, whenever, but it's not now. So, you know, trying not to overreact and trying to disagree in private. You know, that one is, you know, it can be challenging sometimes. So let's just keep it real, right? It can be challenging and it can be difficult, but it can be something that can be done. But obviously, you know, it won't be done 24/7 of the time. So share positive notes about parenting. So, you know, you want to share, you know, positive experiences about, you know, your child's mother or your child's father. You want to share those positive experiences so that the child can relate to having, you know, my mum speaks positively of my dad, or my dad speaks positively of my mum. You don't want there to be any animosity and the child to feel like they have to pick between parents and pick between, you know, what was said. And you know, it makes it a very uncomfortable environment, and obviously children as well grow up to have, you know, a lot of, not a lot, they can grow up to have bad relationships with parents because of the view which they have been sold to them by that other parent, right? So we spoke a little bit about parenting plans. I've never had one, so we'll leave that one ish. Maybe I'll come back to that actually. I might do some serious research on a parenting plan, but some people do parent, have plans as to what they want their the upbringing of the child to look like. So in terms of schooling and extracurricular activities or etc. etc. So yeah, I guess that's not too bad. Having a calendar that merges well with one another, making sure that you are in sync with one another in terms of what needs to be done for the child, what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, and how and how it needs to be done, and what that looks like. We don't want to be, lastminute.com, unprepared, etc., etc. And avoid being that Disneyland parent. I'm going to change that from dad. So it could be parents. So avoid being that fun parent, that wants to take no responsibility, that doesn't want to do discipline, that only wants to do, all of the fun stuff, this, that, and the other. I'm not interested in, going to parents' evening, having to discipline the child, having to speak about whatever situation it is, having to do the hardcore part and the hard work, really, of parenting. Like, it comes with the good, bad, and the ugly, unfortunately, guys, and you just got to just rock it out, innit? There's nothing much else you can do about that. Right. And what else was I going to say? Oh, right, guys. So, wrote a new bio. Yeah. You want to listen to it? I'm going to read it. So, this is a description of the show, right? So, it's a laid back, down to earth, Convos with Shan, a laid back, down to earth observer of life with a passion for exploring and discussing controversial topics that people are scared to talk about. In her natural, direct, and unfiltered style, Shan explores a variety of experiences that will expand your mind, spark debates, and inspire growth through her live weekly show. Talks touch upon current affairs that happen in the world, at home, and in the bedroom. So, with that, we are going to run a quick we're going to run a quick song, I think, and then Alan, did you think of anything? He didn't think of anything. So we are going to be back right here next week. Every week we will be at the Real Buzz Radio headquarters, and they are my sponsors because they allow us to use the studio every week from 7 till 9 on a Wednesday evening. And so we also have two other sponsors. So Jimmy Asher Foundation, they do great things with the youth, here, abroad, Jamaica. If you want to get in touch, in actual fact, shout out, we done some online workout at Christmas, right? And it was for the kids, but I joined in, me, I join in, I keep it real. So I joined in with the kids, and oh my gosh, was it hard work, yeah? Oh, the next day, oh my gosh, all of the abs that I don't have, right, was all paining me up, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. So yeah, it's coming up to the holidays, so they will be doing, in actual fact, I'll get him to send me a list closer to the time, but they will be doing online clubs for the children in terms of online cooking, healthy eating, etc., etc. So there'll be loads of things to do with them, and they are great. And then also, big up the Flavor Stop, right? So yeah, they are my sponsors as well. So anytime anyone, and they have a new Friday jerk chicken platter, which is absolutely amazing, and I will be posting it on our Instagram, I think tomorrow, Friday. I'll be posting it on our Instagram, so it's available on Fridays, I think. But I'll double check, but I'm sure it's available on Fridays. So yeah, they do a jerk chicken platter, which is absolutely amazing, and they are available to order food with delivery. I think it's local free delivery in Southeast London. I have to double check, but I think it may be a small delivery fee depending on where you are. Delicious, freshly cooked, none of the stale food. So yeah, delicious, freshly cooked meals, Friday, Saturday, and I think Sunday, delivered to your door. So thank you very much all for your listening ears. And the new thing is Straight Talk, No Chaser. So yay, I will be back next week. Thank you very much all for listening and logging in. And I really appreciate all your listening ears. Please share the show, guys. Yeah. So all of my Real Buzz Radio listeners, I know you're here. I feel you. I see you. I know I've got some regulars here as well. So yes, love you, love you, love you. And to all of my guys that are listening on the radio, thank you very much. You know, I really appreciate the support because it's been a bit of a change up in scenery, innit? So I'm doing it on my own and I need the support and I love you guys, right? So thank you. And I'll see you back here next week. Hey. Right. Enjoy.